Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to Bathos. Hope you've had some good weeks talking about justice so far with Al and Scott. My name's Ryan. If we haven't met, nice to meet you. I'm going to be talking to you today, and you're talking to each other today, about an important justice issue that's going on, especially in our country. It's gone on forever, but it's a big topic right now is immigration and refugees and the immigrants that we have here in the country and the justice issues that are related to that. So as you know, this has kind of been a hot topic. In recent months, we have elections coming up, and so these issues are all over the place. All kinds of politicians talking about what to do about Mexico and all of the immigration and illegal immigration that comes from that. Do we need to build a wall? Do we need to deport the people that are here illegally? Do we need to grant them citizenship and move on? Another big topic with the refugees right now is because of the Syrian civil war that's been going on for years. There's over 11 or 12 million people that have been displaced from their homes because of war. Half of these are women and children who no longer have homes, who no longer have access to clean water, to food, to shelter. So what is the world supposed to do with these people that can't go home because of war and they don't have access to things? So where are they supposed to go? Who's supposed to feed them? This is the biggest refugee crisis we've seen in the world since World War II. So that gives you a little bit of perspective that this is a big deal. This isn't something small going on. And so the problem is these are really complicated issues. So politicians and Americans are all talking about what's best for us. Are all of these immigrants, are these refugees coming here good for us? Is it going to put a strain on the economy? Is it dangerous? Could they potentially come here with intentions to harm people? And then questions on what's best for the immigrants, what's best for the refugees, what's best for the world. Maybe we would be putting ourselves in danger, but we're ignoring the needs of 11 million people that aren't safe and could die, who don't have homes. But what is our responsibility in this? Is it our job to provide homes and food and shelter for all of these people, or is it our job to make sure that our citizens are safe, are taken care of, aren't going to end up in similar situations? So these are really hard questions to answer. It's complicated. There's issues on both sides. So what to do about those is going to be really hard for us to figure out in a small group setting in Lubbock, Texas. But the reality is that regardless of what you think we should do about the bigger situation, the reality is that those people are here. There are immigrants here. There are refugees here. So the question is, how do we interact with those people? How do we treat them? And in doing that helps us give us a bigger picture of how to work through these issues. And so the way that we're going to figure out how to do that is looking at Scripture. What does the Bible say? What does Jesus say about these things? So I'm just going to read you a list of scriptures real quick. There's about 5 of them. We'll have them at the end of the bottom of the video in the description if you guys want to go back and look at them. Okay, first one is Leviticus 19, verses 33 and 34. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Next one's Deuteronomy 10, 18 through 19. He, talking about God, defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Next one is Exodus 23, 9. Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners because you were foreigners in Egypt. Matthew 25 through 36. So some Old Testament stuff. So here's what Jesus says about some things like this. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And then finally, last one, Galatians 5:14. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command, love your neighbor as yourself. So that kind of brings it all back into perspective. Scott started a couple weeks ago with who is your neighbor, and Jesus gave the story of somebody helping a foreigner, helping someone he didn't know at the risk of his own life. It was a dangerous road. He used his own resources. Perhaps he wasn't able to live as comfortably because he gave money to this person. So loving your neighbor means doing that. You can see all these scriptures in the Old Testament. There was a constant concept of God saying, support the foreigner. You know what it's like. You were those people. You were oppressed by somebody because you came in, because you had to leave your home because of a famine. You didn't have food, so you had to go somewhere else, and they oppressed you, and that's wrong. So don't do that to people. You need to give them food. You need to give them shelter. You need to give them clothing. You need to love them. You need to not oppress them. And Jesus is saying the same thing. You need to give people clothes. You need to welcome the stranger. You need to welcome the foreigner. Love your neighbor as yourself sometimes means putting yourself at risk. Maybe it sometimes means giving of your own resources, sacrificing so that you can help those people. So that's my understanding of Scripture's perspective on the situation. It seems clear that God has a heart for people who don't have a home, who are not in their home, who are living somewhere else, who may have needs that local people can attend to. A story real quick about some refugees, a refugee that I know. When I was in school in Kentucky, we had family housing, so my entire neighborhood was fellow students. And one of them, my next door neighbor, was a man named Jacob, and he was from Syria. I don't know if there's a popular documentary, I think it's called The Gods Grew Tired of Us. It's about Syrian refugees. They're called the Lost Boys. This happened in Syria in, I think, starting around in the 80s maybe. But similar to what's kind of going on in Syria and Sudan, there was a civil war. Children were left without parents. Children were orphaned. They didn't have anywhere to go. And so this mass of orphan boys and children ended up traveling south to neighboring countries and eventually got relocated. So Jacob was one of those boys. He has the tribal scar tattoos in little V shapes on his head. So this guy is a really cool example of what it means to not have a home, to have to flee your country. But he was relocated to Houston in 2001, so he's been here for a long time. He's kind of a native Texan. He was living in Kentucky at the time. And Jacob's this awesome guy. He's in seminary. He wants to go back to Sudan and be a minister to his home country. He's married. He has 3 children. He has this great life and all of these opportunities, not just to provide for his family and live a comfortable, successful life, but to be a positive influence in the world, to go back and to make his home a better place, because there were these systems, there were these people that were willing to bring in refugees, bring in these children who didn't have anywhere to go, who didn't have anybody to help them. People reached out and they gave him a home and they gave him a life and they gave him these opportunities. So now he has a family. Now he has a chance to make the world a better place, not just living a good life, but to really be a part of the world and to give back in ways that people have helped him. So that's my example, my experience, my interaction with a refugee. So I hope that maybe gives you kind of a cool little experience of these are real people that have real needs. And so not only are we trying to provide food, but we're giving them an opportunity to live and to know Jesus. The cool thing about having people from other countries come here, our GCF, our international ministry, does a really cool job of this. Is missionaries go all over the world to tell people about Jesus that may not have known him, but with immigration, with refugees, with people coming to us, it's an amazing opportunity to reach them with the gospel, to teach them about Jesus when they don't have those opportunities to learn those things back home. So not only is it a humanitarian good thing to do, but it's an opportunity to share Jesus and to share the gospel and share the love of God. So here's a few discussion questions for you guys to talk about. First question is, what influences your perspective on these people, on these issues, on these things that are going on? Is it stuff like media, family, politics? Is it your friends? Is it scripture? I want you to reflect on, why do you think and why do you feel the way you do about this issue? I think if you can look at the way you think about it, the way you understand it, you can kind of think, maybe scripture hasn't influenced my opinion on this as much as it should. Maybe I need to reach out and meet some of these people from other countries, people that have immigrated here, people that have had to flee their homeland to come here. Second question is, how can and how should Christians minister to the foreigners that are amongst us? The reality is that they're here. Regardless of your political opinion, they're here, and we have an opportunity to minister to them. So how can we do that? How can the church do that together? And more importantly, what can you do about it personally? How can you be a part of sharing Jesus with foreigners? How can you be a part of sharing Jesus with the refugees, with the immigrants, with those that don't know him? So I hope those are some good discussion questions to get you started. I feel strongly about this topic, so if you want to talk to me about it or anybody else at the Wesley, we'd love to do that. So hope you guys have a good week, good discussion. Be blessed. See ya.